New World is a game that is very near and dear to my heart. I remember seeing it for the first time in 2019 and constantly checking the news section of the website to see if any new information was posted. I've played pretty much every testing phase of the game and probably logged over 300 hours in just the alpha and beta alone. Add that to my total of the live branch and PTE, I have almost 1,000 hours in the world of Eternum. It's a game that I truly could see myself playing for years, and I've done so. I've been consistently returning to the game even after taking a few months away. It's always hard for me to come back to a game, especially an MMO, because I always struggle with trying to figure out what I was doing when I left and what to do next. I never really had that problem with New World, and this past year, after the game had received one of its biggest updates yet, and was seemingly in one of the best places it had been in since the game's release, Amazon pulled the plug on Amazon Game Studios and New World. I remember where I was when I saw this announcement, and I really had no idea how to react. I only really had a few people to tell about this because it was one of those games where not a lot of people knew about it, but the people who did know were almost always heavily invested into the game. Since that announcement, I've been struggling to find something new to fill in that void. There was just something about New World that other MMOs don't have. The graphics, the art style, the audio, and I'd even go as far as to say the combat. Going from playing New World to playing a different MMO just makes it so hard to get into. The combat just seems like you button mash until you kill whatever enemy is in front of you. I love Elder Scrolls Online as well, but what is the point of using a shield when you still take damage? Maybe I just haven't figured out the combat system in ESO yet, but I still feel like there's just something so boring about the PvE combat in most current MMOs. Don't get me wrong, there were definitely times in New World where the combat just kind of felt boring. But I also feel like I've never had to use abilities in such an intentional way in another game in the genre. Maybe that's all just cope though, and I'm just bad at other MMOs. Back to the art style of the game. This is one of the most beautiful MMOs that is out there. That is probably because most current MMOs are old enough or almost old enough to legally buy a drink in some countries. There's just always been something about Eternum that really scratched that itch for me. I almost didn't mind having to run from place to place before they tripled the amount of fast travel points on the map because it was just such a beautiful environment unlike almost anything I had experienced in other MMOs. Another thing that I love about this game is the skills system. I've always kind of described the game to people like RuneScape on crack because, well, it might not take a year to max out a skill, there were still so many to level up. You had a reason to go out and chop down young and mature trees for an hour, regardless of how high of a level your logging or woodcutting skill was. I remember sitting at Verdant Ascent racing against 5 other people to chop down the ironwood trees. I remember my early game hemp harvesting grind at Primrose, just outside of Windsward, just running around harvesting hemp for hours. I could go on and on about this game's skill system because it was something that never felt like it was too much to ask of you, but still had somewhat of a time factor involved. Now, of course, the game had its fair share of issues, and it would be wrong of me to not at least acknowledge that. There have been a lot of bugs, balance issues, and issues when it comes to quality of life. I know I said I didn't mind walking from place to place, but them adding all of those way shrines was definitely needed. Mounts added more to the game than people think, regardless of how they went about things when adding them. And a feature that sounds so simple to add, like swimming, is something that has been around less time than it hasn't in my time playing New World. But despite all these issues, they did address and fix a lot of them, so you really have to give the developers of the game some credit. And last but not least is of course the community. After the initial hype of the game and the queue time incident, the core audience for this game stuck around. And I'm sure you've heard this if you've watched any other video similar to this one about any game shutting down. Some of the best, most entertaining times I've had playing video games, most entertaining times I've had in life, have come from sitting in Windsward talking in global chat or local chat with a bunch of people about some random topic. Some people that I had never met in person and never will. All the duels outside of the Everfall and Windsward gates, all of the seasonal events like Legacy of Crassus, Springtide Bloom, Fury of the Spriggan, Rabbit's Revenge, the Summer Medley Fair, Nightvale Hollow, Turkalon, and the Winter Convergence Festival. Each of these events gave me even more of a reason to return to the game if I wasn't already playing it. I started following this game during my freshman year of high school, and I'm about to graduate from college. And in that time, while I've been playing the game, I've had many people give me advice on what sorts of classes to take for my major, what areas in my major are interesting or could be useful, and I know it sounds extremely corny to say, but this game really did play a part in shaping who I am today. So as far as what's next for the game, well, there isn't anything next for the game. As of right now, the servers are shutting down on January 31st, 2027. There's been some talks of other studios acquiring the game, but that will more than likely never happen. One reason is that Amazon would hate to sell something that could have the potential to turn around and make the buyer a boatload of money. Another reason is that it would be difficult to have a completely different studio with a completely different set of skills take over an MMO that has so much built on it after all these years. And the last reason is that most of the community has just simply moved on. People don't care to play a game and progress further if all of that progress is just going to be gone forever like it never happened. The game averages at about 750 daily players on Steam across 5 servers and currently 1 PlayStation server with who knows how many players. So in its current state, Eternum is almost completely empty. I figured this would be a good time to quickly highlight some alternatives, whether that be games that you can play right now or games to look forward to and keep an eye on. First up are the games you can play right now. The first game on the list is Guild Wars 2. If you loved the exploration, dynamic open world events, and map clearing of Eternum, this is, in my opinion, one of the best alternatives. It has a fluid action hybrid combat system, an amazing community, and it highly respects your time with a horizontal progression system where your gear never becomes obsolete. Plus, its mount system is easily one of the best in the genre. I haven't gotten too far into it yet, but in that time I have enjoyed myself, and it's had a pretty decent resurgence with the recent announcement of Guild Wars 3. If your favorite part of New World was the beauty of the world and spending hours grinding out life skills, Black Desert Online is a massive sandbox that really hits that mark. It has very deep node and crafting systems paired with some of the most fluid action combat on the market. This is one that's been around for a while as well, but the community is still very active. Throne and Liberty is one that I personally haven't played too much of yet, but in the little time I have played, I feel like it also really gives you that large-scale open world feel with great visuals and active guild warfare. It has a hybrid action combat setup with castle sieges and world bosses that can help fill the void of New World's original endgame vision. The player count numbers are confusing to say the least, but I'd say it's worth checking out and giving it a shot. And as for games to look forward to and keep an eye on, Chrono Odyssey is the first on the list. It's an action MMORPG that looks absolutely breathtaking visually. It promises a complex real-time action combat system that could finally deliver that heavy, intentional combat feel that New World had. Early playtest reviews were pretty rough, but the game has been delayed to early 2027, so hopefully that gives the developers some time to work on fixing up any issues that the game had during those initial playtests. Moving away from the traditional tab target style, ArcAge Chronicles is shifting heavily toward active, visceral combat, meaningful player housing, and deep trade run mechanics. It looks very good and could fill that massive open world adventure void, and the developers are currently aiming for a release later this year. I know this one is a little bit outside of that MMO genre, but I figured it would be good to include since it has a similar look and feel to New World. Being developed by Digital Extremes, Soulframe focuses on a much slower, more deliberate, and melee-centric combat system in a gorgeous fantasy setting. If you liked the weight and execution required in New World's combat over other MMOs, or if you played and enjoyed Warframe, this is definitely one to look out for as well. There's no official release date yet, but it's possible to sign up to be an alpha tester or buy access through their founder system. And of course I had to include this one as it was recently announced at Summer Games Fest. Guild Wars 3 was a massive reveal, and ArenaNet is bringing the franchise to consoles for the first time on PS5 alongside PC. It's set 1,000 years before the first game in an untamed version of Ore. The biggest thing that caught my eye is the combat and movement system, since they're building it entirely around momentum and speed, which could give us a similar feeling to what we are missing from New World. They also said there will be no subscription or battle pass, which is a huge plus. The first beta isn't until fall of 2027, but it's easily the biggest game to keep on your radar. With all of that being said, this is essentially my goodbye to New World. If any news about the game comes out, I'll still make videos on that, and I even decided recently that I want to still play the game as much as I can before the servers are shut down for good, just to get any last enjoyment out of this game and really soak it all in before it's gone forever. There's still things I never finished in this game, and outside of large-scale activities, I think it might be possible to do so. If anyone watches this video who is a developer or worked on New World in any way, shape, or form, I really want to say thank you for the experience that you helped make for the community. And thank you for taking the criticism from the community and doing what you can to make the game better. New World and the world of Eternum will truly have a place in my heart for as long as I live. If you made it this far in the video, consider subscribing, or at the very least liking the video, since you must have enjoyed it enough to stick around to the end. If you played New World and have any memories of the game, I'd love to hear those in the comment section down below. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any future uploads, and I will see you guys in the next one.